Welcome to the Blue Chip Academy podcast, the Blueprint to Success interview series, providing unique blueprints, tactical knowledge, best practices to navigate the critical points in the elite sports ecosystem so athletes and parents can prepare a plan to a career path that any athlete can bank on. Our next guest, another DMV area legend, 12th overall pick in the NFL. Our guest teaches creative arts, literacy, and
I gotta interrupt you.
Go for it. What you got?
I was 11.
That's what I'm talking about, baby. The 11th overall. Hey, I already messed up the guess. It's Aaron Maybin, but the 11th overall pick of the NFL draft. That's my bad. That one pick. We can get to them numbers later, but that matters. But teachers creative arts and literacy in Baltimore Public Schools, created art activism curriculum being taught in several Baltimore schools. Also co-founded the Operation Heat campaign, raising over $90,000 for schools struggling with heat and issues in the wintertime. Aaron is Fox 45 Martin Luther King Champion Courage Award recipient, Baltimore Arts Multi-Corporation executive board member, and member of the newly appointed mayor's transition team, serving on the Arts and Culture Committee. And artist, writer, everything. We got getting on code. You guys get on that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's welcome, man, my guy, Aaron Maybin. What's up, bro?
Bro, it's an honor, man. Thank you for having me.
Man, thank you.
Coming.
I know, man. Thank you for jumping on it. My bad. Like you said, not 12, 11, bro. 11th overall pick. You know what I mean?
Man. You know, I say that just to make sure that we up on our P's and Q's from a content perspective. But
no, for sure. That's right.
That's maybe the thing I care least about in my story.
No, I know it is. I know it is. That's what's so funny about it. That's what's so funny about it. To start off with it, but that's the typo on my bad. So anyway, we jumping into it, man. My guy out here is feet in the soil, just back in there. Man, leader of the community leader, activist back in Baltimore. But seeing through the recruiting process, going to the league, being an artist, writer, and just seeing just the different facets of life, right? That the dynamics that come from sports and different things of that nature. What's one piece of advice that you would give to a family or a kid getting into this elite sports ecosystem that they can bank on and kind of ride out throughout this process?
The thing that I say to every single one of my mentees, every single one of my students, every single one of the kids that reach out to me that has that kind of potential is to have a plan. And not just any plan, but the plan. Obviously for most kids, they think about things from the vantage point and perspective of making it to the NFL, the NBA, whatever the major platform is for the sport that they play. But you don't think about life in its totality. You don't think about the fact that, God willing, like, let's say you have a 10, 15-year career. At the end of that career, you'll still be in your late 20s, early 30s. You know what I mean? So what does the plan for life entail? And how do sports fit into that? Let's work backwards from the end, because we want to make sure that we have quality of life. You know what I mean? Like, we grew up obviously as, brothers that, grew up in, urban environments, people of color, you know what I mean? Like, dealing with certain issues, like, most of our families never got a chance to taste or understand generational wealth. So within our plans, we actually have to be ambitious enough to grapple with what that looks like and say, how do we tailor this in a way that we set up future generations for success, but also that we set ourselves up in a way that we actually experience life in the way that it's supposed to be experienced. You know what Absolutely. I mean? And get every bit out of it that we need to get. So from the standpoint of what school you go to, let's make sure that life plan can be encompassed through that school. Let's make sure that education-wise, we're taking that just as seriously as our athletic pursuits, and not just taking it seriously in the classroom, but figuring out what this education that we're getting for free actually means for us in the long term. How are we going to take these resources back to our community and improve it for the better? You know what I mean? And then figure out Absolutely. Where football fits into that.
100%. That's why we talk about using sports as a catalyst. And when you say that, sometimes I think that people misinterpret where that generational wealth or where you kind of set it up, because it becomes, right, the professional sports is that goal. But like what you're saying is like using that college decision, that first one where you're using it as a catalyst, a springboard, like the NFL or professional sports. It's not going to last. I mean, it lasts for some people. Some people make it, some people don't. We know the percentages. I'm not to crush anybody's dreams, but the point is that there's opportunity in this whole elite ecosystem, and you're getting set up for the critical.
And the point
view
is,
and
even if you do make it to that goal, and let's say you do have a 10-year career, you're still in your 20s, early 30s. Still
there. And you have to have
what is life after this game?
Yes.
We don't ask 100%. Ourselves that question early enough because too many, you already know, both of us know too many brothers that had to grapple with that question before in real life before they actually grappled with it individually.
That's 100% because when you're going through it, I mean, that's why I always say you have to have that dream beyond football because whether understanding, I want to be a general manager, I want to be a president of this, and just going through the process, it'll sharpen you up on how you're going. You're going to look at the different opportunities because now when we talk about NIL coming down full circle, starting to come with high school, like you're dealing with teenagers making business decisions.
Right.
Whether it's dealing with agents, companies, collectives.
And how many of those teenagers have been trained to make business decisions?
Man, we know.
So my thing is like, and this is how they set them up for failure, right? They tell them, all right, you can get money knowing that if we don't teach you how to manage this money, it's going to go.
Hey,
you know what I'm saying? We've seen
it's a new world in the NIL, man.
We weren't around in this NIL era, but we seen dudes F a Pell Grant up. We seen dudes F a bowl check up before they even get it.
I'm the first one to say, I'm not so see some guys, I'm the guy. Like
exactly.
I'm the guy.
I wasn't gonna put your business out there like but no, like let's be real. Like we never, like one of my favorite Cole references, like, yo, we never know money.
Yeah.
We grow up getting taught how to blow money, but we never know how to keep it. We never learn how to invest it. And we come from backgrounds where we don't get the type of quality education that most of our peers at the college level got coming into so we already operating at a deficit from an academic perspective. But even from a social standpoint, we never knew privilege. And you get put into this environment where 90% of the people come from privileged backgrounds and you're expected to sink or swim with them. Regardless of where your preparation goes. So my whole thing is just like, and the NCAA is never going to do that. They want as many players as possible to F up this Pell Grant money, this NIL money, this bowl check money, because that reinforces their ideology of we should never have been paying these players in the first place. All they're going to do is ruin themselves with this money. When if you actually provided a certain amount of education and you fortified them with the understanding of what this money could be for them and their families, all of a sudden you go from having situations where half of the players that get scholarships that never make it to the league end up never being able to do anything with their lives because they never prepared themselves from anything else. Now they actually are able to create a nest egg for themselves and their family where they're starting with a head start in life. By the time you leave college, of course, you're not leaving with debt because you were on scholarship, but now you're leaving with some money, with a business sense about how to be an entrepreneur, about like
money,
and hopefully you're
connections, all those different things, man.
Say it again.
Absolutely. I said money and relationships, like, because when you're connected to these different things in the business that you're operating in within these college ecosystems, that's the alumni. Like those are your connections that you make, whether you're trying to, whether be an artist, musician, or work in corporate America, or go back to in higher education, whatever the case may be. There's just those different tentacles that come off of your school. Like you said, that incubation period, like, is that school going to be there to support you throughout this athletic journey? So when we jump back into it, how are you going through the process? Were you thinking about all these different things that you're talking about? Because as somebody that, I mean, we just tell a little fun fact about Maybin. He had his first commissioned piece of art at 11 years old. And that's where I messed up and said that you had your first commissioned piece at 11 years old, not that 11.
Yeah.
11, 12, all that.
All good.
Anyway,
all good.
first commissioned art piece at 11 years old. So you already had, I mean, a level of understanding. I mean, if you commission a piece at 11 years old, you're typically a businessman.
By the city, like not even like an individual. It was like I had to paint a 40 by 50 foot mural on the back of a Habitat for Humanities building. And
So
now
with art being with art being so like prominent in your life, how did that go into your recruiting process when you were looking for schools?
It actually factored in a lot, man, and that's where I gotta give a shout out, not just to you and the other guys that were already there when I was getting recruited, but Matthew Rice, Blue, our brother. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, when I went to Penn State, I think to his credit, LJ really had a beat on me. Like, he understood the type of young man that he was recruiting, and he understood that, like, not only was I from Baltimore, but like I really was serious about my art. Like, that was really what I saw at a young age. Like, this is one of the ways I'm going to leave my mark on the world. And I wasn't going to go to a school that didn't have an environment that was going to nurture that. So
Right.
when I came up to Penn State on my recruiting visit, he had made sure that he put me with Blue. And to everybody that's watching, Blue is Matthew Rice. He was a defensive end at Penn State. Used to wear number 55. He was a guy that was from my hometown, Baltimore City, Maryland. And
Shout out to
like,
Blue. Shout out to the Blue.
yeah, like he really like shout out to Blue. Like he took me under his wing really early during my time at Penn State, and he told me a lot of the things that he did. He was one of the first football players before me that was black from the inner city and like came to Penn State and like pursued an arts degree and was really serious about it. And like the football team nurtured him and made sure that he had an opportunity to chase that. So of course, when they're recruiting a young Aaron Maybin, like when I come to the school, like they're saying like, all right, like get with this guy, Matthew Rice. He's going to tell you about how we've helped to bring his career along, how we've like, you know, made sure that he was in a good position, this, that, and the third. And he did that. Like he really told me everything. I literally majored in integrative arts as one of my double major subjects because he told me that that's what he did. And when he explained to me the process of it, I was like, yo, I want to do the exact same thing, but I want to do it this way. Like it was different than what he was trying to do. But the fact that that was a possibility and that the team went out of their way to make sure that I knew that that could be what I did there was really important for me. So like, you know, having him as a mentor early on was like huge.
Man, 100%. Shout out to Blues. I remember the first time going over him, Mike Rob's apartment. And he had his easel in his studio and in the apartments. I was like, oh, he's like a real artist. Because when I got there, they're like, oh, Blue does art. And I was like, okay. And then I went over. I was like, oh, like he does art.
Yeah,
he's
like seriously.
an artist. You know what I mean? Like, so
and I was used to that. I was used to being the athlete that like was a serious artist, and people didn't take you seriously as soon as they heard that you were an athlete. But then when they would come into your space and they would see what your abilities were, they were blown away because in their mind, a person that's creative can't possibly also be this violent.
That's true.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's a misconception. Or just even if someone's has a passion for something else. I remember telling a story about Myron Rolle being at camp. He wanted to be, you know, a neurosurgeon or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but I was thinking even from my standpoint, like, damn, how you gonna do both? You know what I mean? But from your
that's
standpoint,
become my guy. But he's become my guy too. And like in our discussions, that's the one thing that really like I got his book right behind me too. But like,
awesome.
It's funny. We both share the same mindset. When it comes to football, is just the tip of the iceberg. Like that's what was comfortable for people to accept coming from us, right? Two young black men, same age, basically, like similar environments, backgrounds that we come from. You're comfortable accepting us as the football player. You know what I mean? Because we big, strong, black, like athletic, all of these things. But like when we come to you from the academia side, from the creative side, from the talented temp side, you don't want to accept that coming from somebody that looks like us and talks like us and dresses like us. You feel what I'm saying? So like,
I do.
That was something that me and him was like aligned with early.
That's I mean, now that for sure, I could definitely see that, man, because it's hard. I mean, we can talk about it in football or just whatever the case may be. We get into that elite sports ecosystem. They want to see like what you're going to bring to the program, right? Like how focused are you here? Like whether it's in college, whether it's in the NFL, sometimes it's discouraged to have another passion while you're going through the process.
Oh,
So how are
absolutely.
you?
Not
How
even
are other schools?
sometimes. I think most of the
Real
time.
quick, how are other schools talking? How are other schools dealing with your art passion? Were like any of them outwardly like, ah,
Not
or
the
was
same
everybody
way
kind of
Penn
like,
State was. And that
okay,
truthfully was between that and the fact that LJ reminded me so much of my pops. Like I think Phil hit on it earlier when y'all had y'all interview. Like LJ was the secret sauce when it came to
sure,
my class. Like he just, man, that dude just had he had everything he needed, like from the standpoint of, yo, I'm from here, like I know y'all, I understand how y'all are raising this young man. Like I'm gonna make sure he good. Like I'm gonna treat him like my own child. Like he said and did all the right things. And when I saw that like on the academic side, that they were really willing to nurture that side of me outside of the game, they were one of the only schools that cared about that. Like in my recruiting process with other schools, they would tell me how touted. They would be like, yeah, our art department is ranked here. And they're like, but none of them were really getting me. And most of them didn't have players that were majoring in art that they could put me with. And you know what I'm saying? So to their credit, it's not like they didn't care, but it was like, we've never seen you before. We've never seen somebody that does these things, has this skill set, and has this mindset early on about trying to steer his career in a certain way. So the fact that Penn State presented an avenue for that for me, and along with a bunch of other things, like it just made it the ideal location for me to go to for college.
no, that makes perfect sense, and especially when you count, you make some great points in that, and just I remember you when you came up for your first visit. And I remember like your focus as a recruit. I remember that, so I was wondering how you approached it, because I always tell guys now, like, you have to have your criteria based on what you want to do beyond this whole thing and use this spot. And I remember you coming in, and it was like you were focused. You're like, all right, what's this? What's that? All right, I'm trying to do this. I want to win here. I want to do this. You had like your whole plan. You had told, I don't know if it was me and Derek or something in our room, and you came up. He's like, I want to do this. And we were looking at him like, well, damn, he got this thing planned out.
Yo, but it's so funny for me to hear those stories now, right? Because I think of, and of course, I would never compare myself to one of the GOATs athletically, but like when I hear stories about like what Kobe was like when he first like came into the league, right? When he was just like pulling up on all of the OGs, just like yo, just trying to get the game from him because he already had this plan of like what he wanted to do with his life. Um,
For sure. That
Athletically,
was
I never
evident.
reached those heights, but in terms of mentality, I think that I had a very similar mentality of like Kobe knew that the art was in him. Kobe knew that like doing films and doing like, you know, books and all of those things was in him, but he understood that you got to keep the main thing. And you
Main
got to
thing, the main thing.
be not just proficient, but like you got to be a real dog at this game that you're playing in order to get to a point where people respect the other thing.
Oh,
You know what I'm
100.
saying?
That's that 100%. That's a real valid point. Like, gotta be a dog here for them to even respect the next part. So we transition into Penn State. Like, how was that for you? I mean, you talk about coming from inner city, Baltimore, and
Hmm.
you know, just
It
from
was
the whole culture shift.
yeah, man, it was crazy because I feel like I was more prepared for it than most other people in my position, right? Because when I went, like, of course, I grew up in West Baltimore, but I went to high school in Howard County, which is a very, like, you know, predominantly white, privileged, like, you know, high income area in Maryland. That the reason why I went there for high school instead of like my district high school, which would have been Edmondson High, was that um, they had one of like the top 5 public school systems in the country at that time. So the whole idea was like, you know, I had struggled in school up until high school. And the idea was like, I was athletically gifted and like people were recruiting me at a very young age, but I literally did not have the grades to make, you know, me going to one of the private schools here in Baltimore possible because they weren't giving out athletic scholarships at the time. And if they were going to give you a scholarship as a preferred academic student because you were an athlete, like you still had to make the mark, and I was nowhere close.
Oh, wow.
So it became apparent to my father that like I don't want him to go to his district school because they're struggling to even get guys eligible. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want him to get to the point where he's talented athletically and he has scholarship opportunities, but he can't accept it. So we started looking around for our options, and I hadn't done what I needed to do from an academic standpoint, you know, to make the mark. And I actually, to be honest with you, I thought that there was something wrong with me academically at the time, because I was trying, but like, yo, like it was just so hard, and I couldn't understand why it was just so hard for me to learn certain things as opposed to like not just my peers, but just like where I was supposed to be based on everybody else's assumptions. And then we find, you know, the school that I ended up with going to was a public school in Howard County that, you know, was willing to work with me and like knew that like, you know, knew the background, knew the history, and a football coach was really like, you know, big on, you know, giving me opportunity. Like he had seen me play before, so he was gung-ho about it. So I went to Hebron, and you know, during my time there, I became the honor roll caliber student that I would be for the rest of my like school career. But it wasn't because school became more important to me. I actually was in a place that had resources. Like for the first time in my life, I wasn't in a classroom of like 35 kids and like 10-year-old textbooks and like, you know what I mean? Like all of these different deficiencies from an academic perspective, whatever you could think of us needing, from computers to new books to teachers' aides and different, like we had those things. So I realized like, yo, there was never nothing wrong with me as a kid.
Resources, man.
I just literally was in an environment that didn't have any of these things. And then it messed my head up because I'm like, yo, like how many kids did I go to school with that were my homies that like, we all thought something was wrong with us, but like, yo, like the school just isn't giving us what we need in order to get a proper education. But we're measured by the same standard as me and the kids that I'm going to school with now. So by the time I got to Penn State, I already had gotten that separation of like, it wasn't my first time going into a classroom and being the only black kid. It wasn't my first time. Like, it was my first time being in like a stadium class of like 1,000 people. And I'm like the only, like one of the only couple black faces in the room. But like I got comfortable during high school being the uncomfortable other in the room.
Gotcha.
So by the time I got to college, I was just on that type of time of like, yo, like it's time to get to work. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I had a mindset and a mentality, like, you know, you remember how I was. Like I was 100%. A workaholic. I wanted to find whoever the hardest worker was on the team, and that was Puz at the time. So I got right up under him. I'm competing against him every single time. He about to go to the league, so I'm gonna beat him in every sprint. And dare somebody to say I'm not about to be the next great. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that was my mentality of like trying to like put myself in a position to compete with people that were going where I wanted to go.
Shout out to Paul Puz Lesnar. He's definitely
a
goat and one of the hardest.
Tim Shaw. Tim Shaw's life is so inspiring to me right now. Like just this idea of like I really was gifted to be able to go to school and learn up under people that had such high character and integrity, and that like that's you too. Like all of you, like had it not been for you, Derek, Jordan, Dion, like I wouldn't have been at Penn State. I didn't believe that they were willing to put young black kids from environments like we came from at the forefront until I seen y'all do it. When I seen that, I was like, oh snap, I can go here.
Hey, that's some real recruiting tips right on. That's some real recruiting stuff for everybody out there that bringing the 5 stars and understanding how it impacts the next classes and different things of that nature. That's the proofs in the pudding, from just being able to believe that they would do it based on that. I mean, we seen it in different
or even
programs.
Not even just the 5-star stuff. It was like
not even the 5 stars. Jordan, just like putting
Jordan or Dion was like that highly recruited, but it was the idea that they recognized the talent and they recognized that the game was evolving.
Exactly.
And they
That's what it was.
That
the game was evolving.
On the front end of that evolution in the Big Ten. You feel what I'm saying? Because like
100%.
the Big Ten was like a different type of game before that. And that was what made me apprehensive because I was like, my game don't fit in the Big Ten like it fit in the ACC and the SEC, the Sun Belt. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
How much did you weigh when you got to Penn State? Give the listeners some info.
Like 210 maybe,
210.
15. Because I was just coming off a wrestling season. So like all the work, like my metabolism was crazy. So like even in the NFL, the heaviest that I ever was 258, 253.
Okay. 6'4",
like
253, 258.
Yeah, like that was the heaviest that I ever was. You feel what I'm saying? Like, and that was me eating 5-6 times a day, like waking up in the middle of the night to have a shake, like doing all of this stuff that like my body was not built to be that size. Right. But LJ really like, and he knew that too, but he saw something in me and he said, look, if you can do what I think that you can do, you're going to play and you're going to like, you know what I'm saying? It was like, he saw what I was capable of.
LJ the Whisperer.
Yeah, and he was just like, yo, like, you don't have to be the prototype. And the crazy thing about it is like, and like we had our good times and our bad times, but the one thing I will give LJ is like, he had a foresight about the game that many people didn't have. He knew that the game was evolving into what it is now. I was honestly about 5 years too soon for what the NFL is now. Because when I came in, the team that drafted me didn't even realize what the league was becoming. It refused to put me on the field because I wasn't the prototype of that time. But look at everybody that plays my position now.
Exactly. Like who would you compare yourself, like your game to? Like Avon?
Say it again.
Like who would be most comparable to your game now? We would think.
All of the outside rush end linebacker types, the Von Millers, the what's the name? The Ravens got one now. Odafe Owe, he's one. Michael Parsons, like
I recruited those guys. That's what I was trying to get to. That's where I get my frames from. Like
we played in, they were too small.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like nobody would have believed that somebody that size could play up against the run and could do all but nah, like it took, and it wasn't just myself. It was so many other guys that like were that undersized but relentless type of player that kind of set the precedent for the type of guy in that position that you're seeing now. But it wasn't comfortable in the league at that point. So you didn't see most teams going with it. Like the first team that I ever played for in the league that actually got it was Rex. He was like, yo, just do your thing, yo. Like, you know what I mean? Like
versatility.
Rex had that vision early. He was like, yo, go get the quarterback. You know what I mean? I'm going to handle all the rest of it. Like, go get the quarterback and force turnovers. That's all he cared about. Because he recognized that the skill set, especially when you plug it up with a team with, Darrelle Revis and Antonio Cromartie on corner, like, that's a cheat code.
Right. You just go.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, but most just teams that hadn't caught up to that evolution of the game yet. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be able to, as a player, to know your capabilities and know what you're best suited for. Because the last time that you get a chance to choose is when you choose your college. You don't get a chance to choose who draft you. You don't get a chance to choose who you traded to. And if you do act as a free agent, usually you going with the money. You're not going with the staff and the scheme that's best for you. Those guys are rare. Usually you're going to whoever's going to give you the most bread. That's
real. Did you feel prepared when you got to Penn State? Like, I mean, and being undersized and those different things?
Yes and no. But the things that I wasn't prepared for, like, I got it quickly. I think I was put in a very unique position because I was blessed that I got there before Levi Brown left. So I got a whole year of practicing against him and going at his head. Like, the proudest part of my freshman year, because I was pissed off after my freshman year that I didn't play. Because they told me that I was supposed to play as a true freshman. And part of the reason I went there was y'all. It was like, yo, they played y'all early and they played y'all like, I'm like, y'all gonna redshirt me? Like, out of all the people, you gonna redshirt me? Like, you can't use me on the field right now. And
nowhere.
like, so I was young, I was brash and all of that. But the one thing that I appreciated was I got a chance to practice against a bona fide All-American every single day. Like, and I used to try to go at his head because my whole thing was I'm going to show in practice every single day why y'all are fools not for playing me, because I'm going to do my best to embarrass an All-American. And you was there, you saying like, yo, I used to get his ass. Like, yo, like it was like, there was one time where I had my welcome to like college moment when he bent me over backwards like a piece of paper. Like, but it was the first time I ever really pissed him off. And it happened because I embarrassed him like 3 plays straight. And then Joe like got out of his cart. You remember when he was all gimpy and said something to Levi. And like that next play, he let me know why he was about to be a first round draft pick. But that prepared me for, like, in my mind at that point, like, yo, there's nobody that I'm going to go against next year that's going to be able to block me, because he can't hold me for a whole game. And if he's going to be a first round draft pick, like, I'm about to eat these dudes up. Like, so
that's real. That's that iron sharpening iron within the programs.
Yeah.
No, for sure. That's iron sharpening iron within the programs. You want to create that for those type of opportunities for the developmental players to like feel as confident. So when they step on the field, it's instant impact, right? Like you did when you step on the field, it was like sacks. Like the play count was low, but it was like sacks.
Freshman year, it was on. Like I ain't coming to play with cats.
No, because like even then we talk about pass rushers being even a high price commodity or a high visual player on the field. Right, in football, we talk about the positions that moves, that left tackle, pass rusher, corner, quarterback, receivers, whatever. So then now in the game of NIL and different things of that nature, what would have been your NIL strategy in college?
Oh, snap. So it really would depend. And that's the thing. There's different. If I'm going back to me at that age, my family needed certain things.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, my whole thing was like, yo, we betting the bank on me. Like, 3 years and I'm going to get us somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, but at the end of the day, if it's me now talking to my younger self, I'm like, yo, go to the place that's going to allow you to be the best version of yourself in life. Because there was time, and look, we can talk about it now. I got offered hella bags that I didn't take.
Right.
I was one of the very few players that like was in our era that like, yo, I didn't do that. That just wasn't I was afraid. You know what I mean? My whole thing was like, yo, like if I F this up, you know, while I'm a recruit or while I'm in college, like we don't ever get to the bag. You know what I mean? Like, so I was on ramen, you know what I mean? And like all of it, like, yo, like I was selling my art, you know what I mean? To be able to go out on a date with my girlfriend in college. Like I was doing everything, man. Like I was just trying to keep my weight up. You know what I mean? Like
eating ramen.
Be able to, yo, you remember, like, yo, JT used to be on my tail, man, because it was like, yo, I couldn't gain no weight in the beginning, and then I finally started, and then I decided to pledge. You know what I mean? And then, like, I lost mad weight.
Let's jump into that a little bit, man, because like, you talk one thing is like coming in, but not many people can. You talk about having the art thing going on, but yeah, you pledged while in spring ball one time. Let's talk about a little bit of that. You talk about,
and I was the first one since Spice. Like
that's
I
what
was
I'm saying.
like after I did it, a bunch of other dudes like recognized that, like, all right, we actually could do. And I almost lost. Like, yo, Joe was so mad at me. Like, I don't think y'all understand. Like, yo, Joe and Coach Jay hired a private investigator to find out what was going on with me. Because like some people thought I was on drugs. Some people thought I was like,
you lost all that weight.
I lost so much weight and I was doing so well. Like I was finally starting to like fill out a little bit, and they was finally starting to think like, yo, he's maturing and this is going to be a breakout year for him. And then all of a sudden in the middle of nowhere, I just lose 20 pounds. Yeah. They like, yo, are you sick? Are you on drugs? Are you on this? What are you doing? And I couldn't say anything. And eventually they hired a private investigator and found out that I was pledging. When I tell you like, yo, all hell broke loose. My family came up like, yo, it was wild. I had a whole intervention. Like,
because you was pledging Kappa. He's out there getting to it.
Yeah, man. It was wild.
Just going through the process.
But again, that ties back to my original point of my college experience was going to be my college experience. I was not going to not pledge because I'm an athlete. I was not going to not be the head of several campus organizations because I'm an athlete. I wasn't going to not major in the things that I majored in because I'm an athlete. I don't care if it makes it more difficult. Like, I look back at my time in college and I am appreciative of every moment of it because I didn't leave any stones unturned. I don't have any regrets. I don't say I wish I would have done this. If I wished I would have done it, I did it.
Yeah.
And if it was wrong, I dealt with the consequences. And if it was right, I still dealt with the consequences because there were things that I did that weren't wrong, but it was wrong for a football player to do these things. But I didn't look at myself as that. I said, that's the box that you choose to see me in. But I was one of those guys that never looked at this scholarship that you're giving me. This isn't the greatest thing that you've ever done. I'm giving people who are buying my jersey. I'm paying this shit back several times over. You know what I'm saying? I am going to have the experience at this school that is going to prepare me for life. That was really my goal. My goal was yo, I don't know at what point the game is going to be done with me. It was my job to extend that window. But whatever the game is done with me, I want to be able to say that I got everything out of that ride that I needed to get. I got all of the networking, relationships. I got all of the experiences. I got all of the wisdom. I got all of the lessons. I don't want to be able to look it back and say, man, I wish I had done it this way. If that's the case, then I'm just going to do it that way the first time.
That's important, man. That's some real stuff. You're talking about that going through, and it's encouraging to hear that, and for the listeners to hear that as well as people going through the process. Because you always hear about the bitter stories, right? Like, oh, I didn't do this, they didn't do this for me, and a lot of times it's because I think we talk about the focus on where you're at or where you're coming in, and you had a plan. You came in, it's like, I want to accomplish this. I'm going here. I got my art thing, and
they did the same thing with you, I think, though. That's why I'm doing the podcast, because how important it was, right? Because that's how we went away and trained. I know there was dudes that looked at you like, hold up, what you doing? But literally, I don't think you realize how much I soaked up game for you when you came back, because you came back from training and you were like, oh, all right, this is how we train for college, but this is how they train you for the league. I didn't even know that you were supposed to alternate between the hot tub and the cold tub until you taught me, because what you did when you went away, little stuff like that, you have no idea how far it goes. So what I'm saying is your boldness, whether you knew it or not, empowered me to be able to say, I'm going to do these things on my own terms, because at whatever point I get hurt or I become a liability, y'all are going to discard me and not think twice about it. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Ain't no love lost here. This is an even exchange. My talent for your education, my services for your resources. Guys got to know that early going in, not on an arrogance perspective. And that's why I wanted to preface it with, I found the hardest workers on the team. And I need you to back me on that, because you remember when I was lapping defensive backs and all that kind of stuff. They was like, nah, we can't make him run with the linemen. He got to run with the D-backs. He got to run with the A group, because I'm lapping people. I'm going to embarrass y'all by how hard I work. But with me putting in this work, I expect a certain amount of respect for what I'm putting into this program. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's an even exchange.
Right. And I mean, like you said, you maximize it there. That's one thing I always respect that gave us to Penn State was like, yo, this is yours to maximize. We're going to get everything we need out of you. We're going to get the time. We're going to get it out of your body. We're going to get it out of all that, man. We're going to take a quick break and do a LIG read. 1 second. So the college landscape has vastly shifted with the transfer portal, NIL, and other changing dynamics, but without proper guidance, many athletes will fail to maximize their full potential. LIG's Blue Chip Academy provides recruiting, NIL, player development, and advising for families and athletes so they can make the best decision at this critical point in their career. So we have an individual coaching program that we take you through. I'll be your guide throughout that program, but we start with an SPQ 20 and go through understanding the background, your mental makeup and emotional makeup for playing the sport that you want to play. And then we kind of go through the whole process together and put a blueprint to success for you so you can make the best decision and for your college process and stepping into the next phase of your career. So that's there. We'll have the link, excuse me, have the link in the bio below. You guys tap in and call for a consult and understand where you're at and where we can help and fill those gaps for you. So we're going to jump back into the blueprint to success with Aaron Maybin. So Mabe, you finally get drafted, right? 11th overall. We talk about that not being at that point it's the pinnacle. Take me through how you feel about like what you've accomplished at that point.
Man, at that point I was head over heels because regardless of anything after that, at that point, your life changes and your family's life changes. Like the trajectory of your family itself changes. You know what I'm saying? Like you grow up struggling and trying to make ends meet and figuring out how to rob Peter to pay Paul. And then you get to a point where I walked up to my father and I said, yo, take whatever time you need to do it, but quit that job. You know what I'm saying? Like retire. Let me know where you want your house. You know what I mean? Like let me know how big you want it to be, what it needs to like create the house that you want to live the rest of your life in, and let me know what it takes. You know what I'm saying? Amazing. Like that's where I was at that point, you know. And then my siblings, you know, they were right there with me, so it was like I was able to look at my parents and say, you don't got to worry about how they going to go to school, how they're going to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to take care of that. You know what I mean? Like that right there, like, that was everything. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was a life-changing moment right there.
All the deposits coming in to where you can make that huge withdrawal, right? That's what that first monetization point before in football was like, yo, you make it to the league. Or now we're teaching, like, well, that monetization point is college because that scholarship and the education that comes with it, you can – you know,
if you do it right,
things with it. If you do it right, especially with NIL and all. If you do it right, if you work that thing. So when you're getting to the NFL, how was the on-field versus off-the-field life for you? Like, I mean, you always were focused on what you wanted to do, but we know in the NFL, you know, it's cutthroat, top 1%, and having outside passions and hobbies.
On-field was tough, man. Coming in, it was tough because, I was in a bad position, man. I don't feel bad saying it now. Like, I think anybody that looks back on the situation now can understand how messed up it was for me because I was in a position that was supposed to be so easy, right? The team that drafted me had the exact same pick the year before. They had the number 11 pick 2 years in a row. 1 year they selected Leotis McKelvin. The next year they selected me, right? With the 11th overall pick. I was the last college class, I believe, to just be out here just like, you know, sink or swim with it until the slotting of the contracts came into play the year after. So every team really,
you were saying Bradford's year, right?
Say it again.
Sam Bradford was the first pick overall.
I can't say that.
Who was the first Sam your year? It might have been. I
don't even remember now.
It was the last year. It doesn't matter. But my bad.
But the fact of the matter was, we knew that it was going to be the last year that guys got a chance to do their contracts. But at the end of the day, we also knew that all of these contracts every year are slotted. The only guys that end up holding out are the guys that try to push for more. Now, I just wager anybody that saw my story during my time and thought I was some selfish guy to go back and look at what I made. And like, I didn't set the market with anything. Nothing about my contract was difficult, right?
Yep.
But I ended up having to hold out because until almost 3/4 of the way through training camp, they were offering me less money than they offered Leotis McKelvin the year before in the exact same spot. You know, so I came into a situation where the whole fan base already looked at me as greedy and, you know, some hot-headed kid that was, some self-centered, this, that, and the third. And I had to fight against that narrative just to kind of like prove myself. And then like, you know, I get on the field during the preseason. I've already been holding out. But as soon as I get on the field, sack Ben Roethlisberger, sack Matthew Stafford, sack, like every single time I get on the field, I'm getting sacks, right? So there was still a buzz. Like, it was like, all right, like he held out, but it looked like he's going to be that guy. And then the first week that my first game that we played is against Tom Brady. And it's up in Foxborough, and I'm one of like the featured pass rushers for this game, right? Okay. And in my mind, I'm like, all right, this is my awakening. And in that game, long story short, I had like the most pressures out of anybody on the D-line. Like, I played well, but towards the end of the game, there's a play where they're driving on us, and I got a chance to end the drive. Like, I come not unblocked, but you already know I beat my guy with that little dip, and Tom is sitting right there, and I'm going to take his head off. And at the last second, he feels me, and he ducks and pivots, and I go right over top of his head, and he ends up, you know what I mean, completing the touchdown in the drive or whatever. And after that game, I can remember, you know, hearing stories about a couple of the vets on the team, like going and kind of like, you know, making their case for like, yo, like, how he held out, he did this, that, and third. Like, how you going? Long story short, from that point on in Buffalo, for me, it was just contentious. Like, with the guys that I was playing with or trying to, you know what I mean, compete with on the defensive line, the coaching staff. Like, the coach that drafted me was fired a few games into the season. He was replaced by somebody that did not want me. You know what I'm saying? Like all that type of stuff. So long story short, like, and I was really questioning whether I really loved this game enough to keep playing during like that second year in Buffalo, you know, and it wasn't until I got to New York that I really realized that I did still love this game, and that, like, you know, I got a little bit of validation of like, yo, you are the player that everybody has been saying all of these things about, just you haven't been given the opportunity yet, you know. So that's time with the Jets really allowed me.
That redemption in NFL doesn't always come, right? Because I always tell people, I mean, there's a level that you have to get to the NFL. But how long people stay, man, I mean, 1-2 years, whatever. But there's a luck-based thing to it based on what organization you go to, the type of support they put around you, if there's stability with the head coach.
If
like,
the coach that once you gets fired,
bro, my coach got fired week 3. My first year, gets fired. I was on my third head coach by my second year in the league. You know what I mean? Coming off a toe injury and all that stuff. Whatever that case may be, but it's just different slots. And like you said, I mean, beefing with the coaches and beefing with players, that seems like it would be like that would kind of weigh on you mentally and emotionally. Did it?
Yeah. Like, those are the guys, like, with the players was the thing that mattered to me, because it was like,
that's tough.
You remember what it was like at Penn State, man. Like, obviously it's a Big Ten school. We in the middle of, you know, central Pennsylvania, all that type of stuff. But like, yo, we had some dogs on that team that was from where we from. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it was a culture there that was us. You feel what I'm saying? Like, when I got to Buffalo, it wasn't that. You know what I mean? Like I ain't going to get into too many specifics, but it wasn't that. I was the other guy again. So being that in an environment like that, when you don't even really have anybody that's nurturing you, is like, yo, you very quickly, you're like, yo, I think I'm good on this, but like, I
That's
still
real because
love
the
this.
NFL is stressful,
You know what I'm
man. You
saying?
try to
It's
play on
like
the field. It's like
me and
there's a
the
lot.
owner had beef, yo. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, God rest his soul
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. But yo, like, he walked into a room one day and just said, "Oh, this the blank that just took all my money." And I said, "Yo, who the F is this dude talking to?" Like, I'm sitting there looking around at other people in the organization in the room, like, do you think I'm not going to address what this guy just said? You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, like, I don't,
You heard him say that.
Exactly.
You heard him talk about you when he came in the locker room.
No, I watched it. I seen it come out of his mouth. And then I'm looking to his handlers, you know, because we played for Joe, right?
Right.
We played for an older guy that, you know, had some moments. Like, Joe definitely had some moments with us that I'm not going to get too in deep to it with, because he ain't never really came at me like that in public. He was at least smart enough to know, like, yo, like, don't do this. But I'm sitting there like, yo, like, y'all think I'm just supposed to be all right with this? Nah, man. Like, I wasn't that guy. You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't just gonna become that guy because I was so afraid of life on the other side of football. You know what I'm saying? My thing is, 100%. You know, you're never gonna have to worry about me.
Real quick, but that's powerful that you said that, because I think that level of having leverage is what we talk about when you go to college. You have your art passion, you have your education, you have all these different things. It does prepare you to perform better on the field. That's kind of what I always try to get people to understand. It's like, if your stuff is situated on the outside, it's a false premise to say, like, I'm just going to focus on this, because when you start getting higher in the sports ecosystem, like, the talent gets shifted, and there's other things, and like, you look for the people that can play free. So I remember getting to the league, and you'll see guys, they might not train with the team, they have their own regimen. You're like, hold up, I gotta be here. They're like having this specialized, you know, way of approaching the game. But you know, it's real wild to see that piece kind of come to fruition. But yeah, no, that's tight.
Absolutely, I played with a lot of guys, man, that marched to the beat. Like, even when I was in Buffalo, I was on the team with not just Puz, but T.O., Marshawn Lynch, Ryan Fitzpatrick, you know what I'm saying? Like, Roscoe Parrish. Like, I could go on and on. Like, there was some characters on that team, and there was some talented players on that team. But in the NFL, everything is a trickle down. I'm going to be honest with you. I done seen many a talented team that were trash, not because of personnel, but because of coaching staff, ownership. You know what I'm saying? Like,
a lot of different stuff, man.
If you're not playing your best players, you're not going to be the best team. If you're not playing the best scheme for what you are built to do, you're not going to be the best team. We were on a team at the time, and that was a historically bad team. Like, I think we almost went 0-16 that year. Like, and that was my rookie year. You know what I mean? Like, I'm coming in like, yo, I'm used to.
That'll set you up. That'll set you up bad in the NFL. Yeah, on a 16 team. Nobody want to touch that. Like, for real. Because even like to finish my point of what I was saying. Yeah, even to finish my point of what I was saying, like having that leverage outside of the game. Because you get to the league, it's really like who can stay the calmest the most and have fun playing the game. Who can maintain that childlike attitude playing the game. And typically, it's the people that have a lot of dough, sign that second contract, or you get the cats that obviously just blank out on football. You be like, oh, that's a little special. And they're just people that have some type of leverage outside of the game where, like, they're really still enjoying the game. Because you'll see
it. The coach fosters an environment where that kind of open, like, because it's like, I played for Rex Ryan. Like, I know that's something that he does. Like, I've heard that Andy Reid is similar in the way
you see it operates. You see it in the results. Even just how, like, it's like the individual approach to different things. Like, Nick Saban has been caught preaching about the individual approach on the athlete, because that makes everyone makes the team better, because you just gotta find which one ticks. We talk about coaches' philosophies, right? Whereas X's and O's guys versus Jimmy's and Joe's guys, and typically the Jimmy's and Joe's guys have understanding because they look at Aaron Maybin this way. They look at Justin King this way. And I'm going to make this environment for him as the best that he can. I'll make this environment for him, and not just oh, my way is like this, and everybody has to fit in, and if you don't, it's got to be
Can
my
I go?
program.
Can I go back to one of your previous questions real quick, bro?
For sure, go for
You
it.
asked me about my advice to young guys,
For
and
sure.
something that I left out is look at how your position coach coaches. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at how he talks to his guys. Look at how he affirms or uplifts his guys as opposed to tearing them down. And if he does tear them down, look at him. Really watch and see if he ever goes back to build them back up. Because if you don't think that you can be coached by this guy, it's not always a question of how coachable you are, right? We have to be coachable, right? You have to be able to, if you are coaching with a coach that likes to MF his players, right?
Yeah.
You got to be able to deal with that guy in the moment. But a player like me is still going to come to him and be like, yo, check this out. This way that you talked to me earlier, talk to the other guys like that, but I don't need all that. Just tell me that I'm doing wrong and we good. You know what I'm saying?
We used to go back and forth with coaches at Penn State. I remember. I think we had
exactly,
a chippy group. Like Cass was always like.
But at the end of the day, if Coach J, because of the things that I said to him in meetings, wanted to keep me off the field, he could have done that to his own detriment. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And certain coaches will do that. They'll have a talented player that they just want to prove that you're beneath me. And they'll spend a couple years going to war with a player in the film room where like, yo, we could actually be maximizing on this guy's potential.
But sometimes it's ego, and then there's another piece from working on the other side. You mean a lot of times these coaches, when they get there, they want to tell the players, like, man, one thing you want to do before making plays is earn the coach's trust. Because like when they get in that film room and players aren't where the X is supposed to be or the O is supposed to be, bro, I don't know you play Madden, how mad you get when the player doesn't run the right route and you just can't really fix it. And then you start getting these guys, and that's what kind of happens when you'll get a coach. It happens with coaches that come up through the ranks, typically that have coached like D3 moving up all the way. And it's just like, that is the main thing. Cause like, oh, if you don't do it this way, it doesn't work. But guys that coach talent, sometimes you have that understanding of, oh, we got to put this guy in a different position. Oh, we got to coach this differently.
You actually just brought up something that I overlooked that in my analysis too, because one thing that I will be honest and say is that, especially in my relationship with Coach J, that was part of our, like me and, yo, you were, so Josh was just over my house a couple of days ago, right? Josh Game. Yep. Okay. So you already know, like, he was another guy that played with us, played my same position, and was older than me. And he honestly was instrumental, just like Blue was in my transition into the college game and into the NFL, actually, because he was the guy that taught me, once we got to Penn State, how to be a college player. You know what I mean? Like, he was the most senior guy on our defensive line, you know, that took me under his wing and showed me what I was supposed to do. And even once I got on the field, it would be certain times where he knew my responsibility was to drop or to go inside and do, but he knew, yo, if I have a straight rush, it's a sack. So he would just tell me, yo, do your thing, yo, I'll make you right. You know what I'm saying? Like, and Coach J used to hate when we did that, but he recognized that me and him had that relationship. Right?
Level of
so
trust, and they start trusting
when I got to the sideline, he would say something to me and him, but he would also acknowledge, like, if y'all see something and y'all want to take advantage of it, just make each other right. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't have to do that as a coach, and that opened up us to really, like, play with reckless abandon, because we actually communicated and we knew what one another was doing. And that made the defense as a whole better.
That's the trust factor in that coach relationship with the player, and being able to make you guys feel like you can run and play with reckless abandonment. Because you see guys play like, you know, like, oh, the coach said this, play like robots. I got to do this, can't do that.
And the proof is in the pudding.
And you're completely right. There are some coaches, like, if you make the play, it's like, bro, come sit down because you're not listening to what I said. And I'm not saying don't listen to coach. Like, because I always say, if you do something that coach doesn't say, you better make the play.
But to his credit, Coach J would say that though. He would be like, "Yo, under no circumstances go inside and on this scheme. But if you do go inside, you better make the play.
You better
make." And I was like, word. I was the one player. everybody in the room heard the first part of that, but I was the one player that heard the last part. Like, if you do go off board, make sure you make the play. And there were plenty of times my last year, or not even my last year, but my first year getting on the field, he realized what it was going to be with me. He was like, because if I saw something, right, if my responsibility was something else, I would try to communicate it to the closest person to me what I saw, but I didn't want to give it away to the other team. So there were several times where I got an inside stunt and I just take the straight rush because it's a sack.
Right.
And I get the sack, but as soon as I come to the sideline, Coach Jay sitting there like, we don't even have that play. And it's like, I know, man, like, but you see, I saw what I saw, right?
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, man,
like,
that's how that gotta mess me up in recruiting because that's how cats played when we were there. You, Jared, all you guys, Navarro, cats was just making plays, dog. I used to say I wasn't the most disciplined corner for real. I was just like, man, jump something. We sitting in cover 3, man, jump something. Maybe
we were one of those opportunistic D's that knew that in those scenarios, that's when players make plays. Man, and that's why I'm so. But the thing about it is, and I'm glad you brought that point up because when you look at my class specifically, like the Monstars, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but no, real talk. Like,
I've named y'all the Monstars.
It holds up in time.
Like,
when you look at Jared, when you look at myself, when you look at Navarro, when you look at Phil, when you look at all of the people that really like, even AJ ass got on the team and just decided, this just, you know what I'm saying? Like we were a class full of people that went against the grain. Chris Bell, like mad, like loose cannon, but like very, very calculated individuals though. Like we had a bunch of like loose cannons, like hot heads, all that. But like as we started to get older, we grew into ourselves and we still were very like counterculture, like not just going to go along with the flow, but going to like trailblaze our own path.
Be the flow. Don't go with the flow.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
be the flow.
I love the fact that I can look back on my college experience, not even my college experience. I still love talking to Jared. I still love, you know what I mean, being able to catch up with Josh, Navarro, like all of those, like we had so much talent, but guys were really comfortable in themselves as people.
That's real.
And
I think that's pretty real about. I think that was unique about our guys that were at Penn. I mean, Penn State in general. I think that was kind of cool. It was like incubated where guys had to figure out yourself because we had certain rules that all right, we all got to shave this, we all got to do this.
Right.
But in that, we were always finding our own thing. And like, look, all right, we got to do this, but this is me right here. Like y'all know, this is how it. And it kind of matriculated as you see.
You could be fighting with your brother 1 minute and the next minute y'all going like I will never forget me and Andrew Quarles got into a fight at dinner one day over some chicken wings.
You didn't even mention Andrew Corliss in the Monstar squad, but like he's a part of that too. That's interesting.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, but that was our class. We spent our whole time at school fighting each other, like balling, like making hella plays, like and doing things unconventionally. Like we would literally leave practice and get into fights on the way to dinner, and by the time dinner was over, we would be going out together. Like, but these fights would not even be like it would be. People thought we were trying to kill each other. Like it would be like, yo, like
this is.
I remember one time after me and Drew's fight, Joe came into the football building late that night, that same night, and called us both to the football building to like come holler at him in the locker room and like tell him about how we just got into this scrap. And like it was just so funny because he really looked at us like you look at your kids like, yo, really? I really had to come here in the middle of my night like for this. You know, I don't just be coming out of my house like, are y'all good? Like, and we like, yeah, like that was like an hour ago. Like I still got stitches in my nose. He still got stitches in him, but like, yeah, that was like an hour ago. We good.
Yeah.
Like,
those Penn State days. I remember us talking about that class. And you guys were edgy, right? You got everything you're saying is a complete fact. It's no cap. It's not looking back. Like You guys had a lot of first round picks. You guys had a lot of NFL years in that class, and you guys walked on the edge, to be completely honest. Like, and that kind of shifted. I mean, everything at Penn State, we came off that good year, but that set them up for the next, 4 or 5 years. When did you know
But
was
I don't
time
want
to
to.
retire?
Now that you're recounting what I just said like that, I don't want to leave that as the message to the young cats that that's essentially the biggest thing. The biggest thing that I think makes this something that we can go back on and look at in a good light is that we all really grew up during this process.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? By the time we left school, we weren't still the same
it was an iron sharpening iron type of situation. I guess what I was saying,
Right.
like walking that edge, it's a play in elite sports.
We still walk the edge, but we learned during our college time how to walk the edge because we had so many guys.
We can't
Wasn't able to finish.
We can't negate the fact that
because of those decisions that we made, not all of us were able to finish at Penn State. So we understood that we couldn't keep doing it that way and get where we wanted to go. I wanted to make sure I circle back and address that. Like we had to evolve and grow.
That is real. And all you guys went to the NFL is all I'm saying. Because he still left and he went to the NFL. Bake left, still went to the NFL. Right. So all I'm talking about from a talent acquisition and recruiting standpoint, I'm just looking at talent. Y'all had me following the rules. That's the coach. I'm like, oh, man, that was just a lot of talent. In that class.
Right.
But no, that's real though. That's great to bring that back in. It was. Because they were all great guys, right? Everybody went off to do their things and just that maturation process. And when you talk about how important college is, I think you're highlighting that piece. Like everyone was kind of walking like this and then kind of grew together.
We became men during college. We were boys that ended up, after high school. The thing about it is, especially when you get to this level of talent, right? Everybody was the man back at their high school. Everybody was the man in their state, in the country. You know what I'm saying? Like we all were that guy. So getting in that space with a bunch of other alpha male personalities, you're going to have that. You're going to have that aggression boil over into something else. You're going to but the key is not to celebrate those moments, like the fights and the hot-headedness and all of that.
Right.
It's to celebrate the evolution, the point that we all started to understand that my success is your success. So even if we going against each other every day, it's an iron sharpens iron mentality. I want your best and I want to be able to fight you on the field or in the locker room right now. And me and you go out together the same night, because we know that we got to be able to put this to the side and know that we're both individually working towards something in our own personal careers. But as a team, we're working towards a collective goal that we need both of us to be fully present for. And I think that for better or worse, I think that we really went through that process really heavily, during our time in school. And I think that I'm really grateful for the way a lot of those relationships were cultivated, because those are still my guys to this day. You know what I mean? Jared is still my guy to this day. Varro, AJ, Bonnie, Ollie, you know what I'm saying? All of my guys, Drew, all of these people, we all were able to, Evan, we all were able to reach the pinnacle, and we're able to look back on that time and remember the times together that helped to shape and mold us into who we are today.
Nah, that's real. So we go to transition out of the game. Obviously, did a lot, right? Do the art, you do everything that we talk about, from writing books, art, teaching classes on art and the culture. Man, you even had curriculum picked up at Penn State, doing art shows at museums, and different things of that nature. We'll talk about your latest book a little bit. We can finish up on this, Getting on Code. What inspired you to write that?
Sir. The state of where society and culture is right now, specifically in communities like mine here in Baltimore. When you look at cities like, Baltimore, Chicago, Philadelphia, Detroit, Oakland, they are kind of just all used as regurgitated talking points of, conservative media, right-wing media, whatever you want to call it. But everybody wants to talk about like the mayhem essentially within these communities, but nobody really talks about how it got this way. You know what I mean? Like what the systemic issues and the cultural issues have been, and not even just issues, but organized and orchestrated campaigns to make sure that, you know, these cities are in the state that they're in specific areas. You know, understanding that from a young age, growing up in Baltimore, and then once I got away in school, you know, majoring in integrative arts and journalism, but doing it through a way that like I was learning about the history, not just of this country, but in the places that I come from, that made it what it is. You know, starting to get that understanding, I understood that like I wanted to use my career during football and afterwards to take control of that narrative and help to steer it towards something better. You know what I mean? So long story short, when I left school and got drafted, I came back home to the city of Baltimore. I never bought a primary residence in any city that I played in. I always had my home base here. And, you know, from the second that I left school and started my foundation, I've been here in the trenches, in the school system, in our most marginalized communities, making sure that, you know, I advocate for the people that are living in these spaces, you know, that largely resemble the background that I grew up in, you know, and making sure that not just the social issues get advocated, but the actual school system that is educating our kids, that had me feeling like there was something wrong with me as a younger kid trying to learn, understanding that those schools aren't equipped to properly educate our kids, and trying to find a way to close that gap as far as equity and resources. And that's where my curriculum came from. You know, this whole idea of like our schools and our students aren't being taught in a way that they best process knowledge and information. You know what I'm saying? Not enough of the cultural components of how they grow up are actually integrated into their educational system. And figuring that, you know, me as a product of that system, I could help to create some of those resources, you know, especially in the arts and the social studies areas. You know, I've created some educational resources that have become pretty integral here in the city of Baltimore and nationally. And, you know, the goal is just really to keep expanding upon that and the platform artistically and creatively that I use to take the marginalized stories that take place in our communities and actually put them in a larger stage and allow people to understand the cause and effect of how our communities get to be how they are. And in an effort to actually see them transform for the better, creating the solutions that, you know, can be utilized to actually serve as a resource for our kids that are growing up in spaces like that.
Man, that is amazing and perfect. Like, I appreciate you for sharing that with us. And you guys make sure you check out the Getting on Code book from Maybin. I'll have the link at in the bio here. So what's the end goal for everything that you got going on? What do you want to see? Where's Maybin in 10 years? Not the end goal, 10 years.
So yeah, right. So right now I've just myself and another former NFL player, Torrey Smith, who went to the University of Maryland, played for the Baltimore Ravens. We've reopened a community center, a recreational center here in Baltimore City that was previously closed for the last 16 or 17 years. And that recreational center is actually in the neighborhood that I grew up in. So, you know, in terms of like what would a young Aaron Maybin have needed, you know, this recreational center where we're teaching kids, you know, to read and write proficiently, where we have free tutoring and educational resources for them several days a week, where we're connecting with the elders and making sure that they have a communicational vantage point with our youth. You know, this is the type of facility that would have made me not having to go out to the county to get a high school education necessary. You know what I mean? Like this is the type of resource that actually, edifies the lived experiences of the kids that grew up in a scenario like I did. So we opened this rec center a couple years back, and we've just gotten a significant investment of funds and resources from both Under Armour and the Baltimore Ravens after watching all of the work that we've done over this first year and some change. And we're actually going to be expanding our campus now to be able to be even more encompassing and serve even more people. So long story short, by the time we get done with this expansion, we'll have a building that's comparable to the size of most school buildings. And then if you know me, you can kind of connect the dots to where that's headed after that.
Most definitely, man. Kudos and congrats to you and Tori, man. That's amazing stuff there, man. Just taking your time and just your different vantage points from the whole process, your passions, from writing, reading, education, and just your experience from going to different schools, man. I had that same experience, inner city schools in Pittsburgh, moving out to the suburbs and having that experience and knowing how to capitalize and recognizing like the biggest difference or the greatest difference in the schools was the level of being able to focus and resources, right? Like, it's like, oh, there's no distractions. They're giving me all this. It's just like, oh, this is kind of easy. You know what I mean? And not even that, but
our
just
kids are their best when we invest in them.
That's it. That's
and
it, right? And just recognizing that
our society wants to act like it's their fault that they're not being educated. It's their fault that they're not prepared for the world that is preparing to receive them. No, that's our fault as a society, as parents, as educators, as a community. And we got to take responsibility in that if we want to see it change.
100%. It's so important that you recognize that going through the process as a young man going through the process, young black man going through the process, playing in college, going to the NFL and going through that whole thing on the field and then transition out and then bringing it back to the inner city Baltimore and putting those structures in place to have those guys, have the young girls and boys have the acceleration plan and have their, horizons opened up and with the right things in place and having things in the right perspective. So like Maybin said, man, have a plan and attack it as we go through this process and understand that having leverage with education, having leverage with outside passions is extremely important and know what you're bringing to the table. He made it very clear that he understood that it was a business opportunity when he got to college or when he was getting a scholarship offer, that he had something to provide to the school and the school has something to provide to him. And you have to maximize this process in that way. So at the end of the day,
and it's not that school's job to maximize it for you either.
It is
so for
not
all of y'all that are
school's
actually coming into this, that want to see something for yourselves, if you want to have your own business, you need to come in with a plan. You need to come in with an idea or a blueprint of what this business needs to be. And your major needs to be constructed around making that plan solid and scalable in whatever environment is that you want to see this thing operate. Like when I say a plan, I feel like people say that all the time and there's no clarity given. Like a plan is exactly that. It's multi-layered. We're talking blueprints. We're talking plans. We're talking research. We're talking statistics. Like
tactical how many steps, like where, like point A, point B, like then you go here, then you do this. This is what I need to do. I need to talk to this person, then follow up, and then I need to do that a couple months. And I just understanding that is your, like you said, that is your responsibility. And there's like places that can have that resource, but once you understand what you want to do, you can find where the resource fits and where those places can accelerate.
Once you value yourself,
your whole career, you know what I mean?
You can now other people can value. If I value my future and I value my plan, even Myron Rhodes said this. He said Florida State was one of the only schools that came to him and said, all right, you want to be a Rhodes Scholar. This is how we feel like you can do it here.
Right.
That would have made my decision easy too.
No.
If I know that this is a goal of mine, don't tell me how this goal is unrealistic. Tell me how you're going to put me in a position to chase this, and it's going to be up to me whether or not I accomplish it.
150%. Everyone, you guys like and subscribe to this video and to the YouTube channel. Check out the podcast as well. And remember the Football and Sports Business Masterclass. Make sure you have your acceleration blueprint because at the end of the day, the professional sports is a launching point, and having that reverse engineer plan, like Maybin said, start at the end and working all the way back and have details. So when you're going through the process, create that leverage for yourself and understanding what your capitalizing points are throughout this process. Make sure you guys download the recruiting checklist so you're making sure you're evaluating the right points through this whole ecosystem. Maybin, we really appreciate you jumping on, man, dropping much knowledge, much passion and everything, and giving all the game to our listeners about how to approach this process and how to understand to do it with some confidence and having some backing in what you got going on, because that is a part of it. That's why I wanted to highlight when he was talking about his group there, and just they all had this thing of like they were there to accomplish something. You know what I mean? And just that's what it takes to survive. Because like everyone that he talked about, I mean, he probably named 10 guys and they all went to the NFL. So like that is a part of the process. But you can go to NFL and get ready to show at a museum in an art museum in a couple of weeks. So shout out to Maybin on those different things and having a well-rounded thing. And check out and go get Getting On Code. Again, that link will be at the bottom. And Maybin, appreciate you, fam.
I appreciate you, my brother, man. I'm so proud of where the channel is going and all the wonderful conversations that you're having, man. If I was a young recruit, this is everything that I would have been able to need to build that plan that I was discussing, man. So definitely keep this stuff up, man. Like, however I can help, just let me know going forward. And I wish you the best, my brother.
Man, respect, man. Appreciate you.